All right, welcome to this episode of In the Process. And today I'm very excited because I have a friend of mine, Pınar Wennerberg, here with me. Welcome, Pınar.
Thank you, Ümit. Happy to be here.
It's nice to see you, nice to have you. Although we are both Turkish, we have decided to do this episode in English because we want more people to be able to listen to it. We want to reach more people with this, and it's going to be an exciting episode. I'm very, very thrilled to have you here. So, Pınar, I'll give a quick introduction to you and then we'll dive straight into the questions. How do I know Pınar? So, Pınar and I met during a coaching training, actually, and have ever since built a very close friendship with each other. Pınar has amazed me in many ways. There's so much to her as a person. And the more you get to know her, the more comes out. And every time it amazes me, and I know others as well. So I'm very excited to have her here today. But to briefly introduce her, and then I'll hand over to you, Pınar, to tell your story. Pınar Wennerberg lives in Zurich, in Switzerland. She's Turkish. And she's a leader in the pharmaceutical industry, actually, at Roche Diagnostics. Her expertise is artificial intelligence. She's also a professional coach, and this one is super exciting. She's also a professional dancer. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. And she's also an author, the author of the book Letters to the Ones I've Never Met. So I'll leave it here. I think we've probably excited the audience enough about your profile and your background, Pınar. So welcome again. So with that, Pınar, I'll start directly with the first question. I just introduced you very high level, and there's so much more to that introduction. Let's start with your story, Pınar. Can you tell us a little bit about your story, how you moved from Turkey to Switzerland, and how your career has spanned across so many different dimensions, from artificial intelligence to pharmaceuticals to dancing and now professional coaching?
Thank you so much, Ümit. I'm really happy to be here and honored to be your guest. And thank you so much for this warm welcome. Literally, you put goosebumps on my skin the way you expressed. So humbled by that. Yeah, very nice question, in fact. So how I came from Turkey to here to this from Turkey to here to this podcast now. Honestly, I wouldn't have dreamt of it in the wildest dreams of mine. So basically, I was born and raised in Istanbul, middle class, mom and dad. The only thing that I most profoundly remember from my childhood is that I loved to dance. Like every second, everything, I would just hijack my family and I would dance in front of them. I would dance inside, outside. I just loved to dance. I would put on clothes and simulating the famous artists and whatnot. So dance through everything. And at some point, my mom sent me to the conservatory because she saw that I was inclined to ballet the most. So that's what I did throughout my childhood. And I was actually very social and social sciences oriented, if you like. I liked interacting with people. I liked fine arts. I liked all things that speak to the senses and not so much to the logical part of our mind. Anyway, so what has happened is that, I went through the acculturation process, if you like, and as you also grew up in Turkey, or at least like you have the family and all of that, not only in Turkey, honestly, in most of the Western countries, we are always conditioned to go to school, get a good education, get a good job, get all these titles, and like get a good salary, prove yourself, and so we grow up this way. What has happened is that on that way, I did all of those things,
Mm-hmm.
and on that way, I lost my dancing. Honestly, it just slipped because it didn't have any space anymore. So during that growing up journey, the other thing that really pulled me was that my aunt was stewardess. She was flight attendant with Turkish Airlines. She would go to all these places in the world and come back with stories of everything she has experienced. And she opened up the big world for me, basically. I knew that there was a world outside of Turkey. And I got so curious. Oh my God, I just wanted to see all these places. And in the end, she was the one who planted the seed in me to go and live and build my life. Obviously, she didn't do this deliberately. It was my child mind growing up. And I decided I was going to basically go abroad after my studies. So in fact, in Turkey, I got my bachelor's in English language and literature, which was very much aligned with my right hand side, the creative side. And then I thought I'm going to learn another language, which will give me better chances on the job market when I come back. So that's how I went to Germany. I learned German. And then in fact, I loved this foreign experience so much that I decided to stay. And that's where I got exposed and I decided to study again. And that's where I got exposed to computational linguistics, which is somewhere between computer science and linguistics, basically. It's very technical. And I started studying this literally 25 years ago. And now, 25 years fast forward, this was basically the origin of the LLMs, large language models, and ChatGPT and whatnot. Like what I studied back then now brought me to where I am, and I could have never ever imagined this in my life. But basically, I was studying AI before it was called AI. I guess the universe is weaving everything for us, basically. Um, well, long story short, so that's how I got into the world of logic and how to even acquiring a PhD in this and getting into the corporate world and all of that. And then with all these jobs and other life circumstances, this life took me to live on honestly 3 continents and 8 different eight different countries, and I don't know how many cities basically. Um, yeah, that's what this life brought to me. And then somewhere on this journey, I reconnected with my dancing self because I realized that I was missing it so much. And it was not ballet anymore, but it was Argentine tango, which was 20 years ago. It entered my life, and oh my God, that was it. Like that was it. And what can I say? Like I've been through a lot of I don't want to call it hero's journeys, but I've been through some hardship in my life, transformations, and dancing has been my lifeline. And while I was in those transformations, I didn't realize consciously that dancing was my lifeline, but it was only afterwards, like looking back in hindsight and having learned all that I learned, having learned about the body intelligence and psychology of things and coaching, I have realized dancing and being connected with my body has, I can say it saved me, honestly. And that's what brought me to coaching as well, because I accumulated all that experience now, um, and I know my life purpose also on this journey. Like after all this, I know my life purpose. I want to serve. I want to be of service. I want to be of service to people in any ways I can. I want to make a difference. And coaching is one of the best ways I can ever imagine to do that. And now I've got all this body knowledge, so I want to pour it to my coaching clients, that they can also learn to use it for themselves. Um, and lastly, the book. That's also another way for me to serve, because if I can share my stories and what I have been through, and if someone feels seen and heard by that, then
Mm.
Be fulfilling my life purpose.
Mm, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing, Punar. I mean, to be honest, I always, as I listened to you in my mind, I just kept thinking, what a rich soul, you know? And I'm very curious right now, if at face value, if one listens to all these parts in your life, there's AI, there is, you know, kind of the dancing bit that was your lifeline, there's this kind of coaching bit, there's the business world, there is so many different things. What connects them all? What, how do they all connect within your story? I'm very curious.
That's such a wonderful and reflective question. So thank you for that. I see three elements in this, how they connect. One is leadership. Each one of these things required leadership. And with leadership, I don't necessarily mean you are the leader of a team or you're the leader somewhere in company or whatnot. You're the leader of yourself. Like you have this leadership in you to drive these things forward, to be aware and then to drive things forward, right? It doesn't need to be like you're leading crowds. You can also just lead yourself. That's the way I approach leadership. So that's one element. The second element is the body. That's really, for me, that's where everything converges, even AI. Everything converges in the body. Thirdly is the creativity, because each one of us, every single human being, even the one who says, I'm not creative at all, no, there is no such human being who is not creative. Each one of us are creative. It's just a matter of how connected we are to that resource. It's an endless resource, and the more we are connected to it, the more room it has, then there are so many different ways it can manifest itself, basically. And for me, how that all converges and nurturing these three elements, like nurturing my leadership, my inner leader, nurturing my body, and nurturing my creativity.
Thank you. That's very valuable. And I actually want to build on that with, if that's okay, because, you know, that kind of richness, the diversity you have as a human being, from AI to dance to coaching to business leadership to all the, you know, this whole like cross-cultural experience, you bring it all together and it just sounds so easy. Now, I'm curious, you just told us a little bit how do all these parts connect, right? Leadership, body, and creativity. How do you combine the fields you work in? Like, how does that all melt into what you do in life? And if you could specifically highlight, especially as a leader, how does that show up? Everything you're doing, how do you combine that?
Yeah. Actually, they very nice. When I reflect the way you ask the question, they actually very nicely complement each other. You know, they extend each other. So, I mean, I've been in leadership roles now for the last 15 years, global, diverse teams, always in corporate environments. I mean, this is now my professional leadership profile, and then obviously I'm leading myself. Um, so how the embodiment shows up there, for example. I mean, especially in in domains like myself, which is very much left brain oriented, right? Logical. I mean, after all my job is about computer science and programming and data. That's particularly where I am, data and analytics. I mean, it's all about facts and numbers and statistics and what the programming logic, whatnot, right? Which means then you live here, yeah. And everything else here is basically ignored, or at best, you use your body as a vehicle to get the things that your mind sets you for, right? That's how we use our body. But actually, it's such a pity because our body is so intelligent. There is so much, such a big source of wisdom in our body. And if we ignore that, we're cutting ourselves from such valuable information that helps us with decision making, with being aware of risks, with seeing opportunities, with connecting with right people. You know, like I mean, I'm sure everyone has this experience. You see someone, and even without words, there is something nice about that person to you, right? You want to talk more, you want to get closer, something. That's your body intelligence. And another example is you decide on something, but then you feel something is in your gut, like it, some kind of like wrenching, something, somehow it doesn't sit. That's your body intelligence. And we so often just ignore it and we just calculate the facts and then we say like, no, 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 this is the right way. And I've done it so many times and it took me to places I don't want to go. So over time, basically, I've learned the language of my body, and I've learned to yeah, stop treating it as a second-class citizen. And this has played a lot in my leadership, like in how I recruit people, in how I choose projects, in how I avoid risks, in how I present myself, my team, you know. So that's how it basically how I see opportunities. Um, yeah, how I can be a humble leader, how I can be compassionate, how I can be less results and more people oriented and all of these things. So my body is my biggest ally. And now when it comes to dancing, dancing nurtures my body and dancing nurtures my creativity. So when I'm dancing, and for me it's dancing, for others it will be other things. It can be singing, it can be playing an instrument, it can be drawing, it can be writing. Writing is another one for me. Where I'm in this state that we have all heard of, which is called flow. Like when you are there sitting for hours and you don't even know, you don't eat, you don't drink, you're just somewhere, right? You were in the flow. So that's where I am when I'm dancing. And that completely connects me with my body. And then I can express myself without any burden. All my wants, all my feelings, all my longing, all my desire. And because tango is a couple dance, I get all the energy from my partner as well, which means then I'm getting out of my own language. I'm also now learning the language of the other person. And the two of us then create a third language, a third being, which is a being on its own, that dance that we create for 15 minutes whatsoever. And then you learn the language of that energy. Now, you're operating on that subtle energetical level, and if you do that for such a long time, it sits in your tissue. Which means when I bring this body to work or to life, to whatever I do, my body already knows before my mind.
I'm really amazed by the way I don't think I've ever heard anybody explain it like this so well, so clear. What we would never think how dancing connects to how we show up in business or as leaders. But I really had an eye-opening moment just now in terms of how you use dancing to connect with your body, and that energy sitting in your tissues is there then for you to use as a leader, right? To connect to your body. That's amazing. And the creativity and the expression, and also how I just love how you described how body intelligence helps us make decisions, connect with others, be creative. And I just kept thinking about, we described the business world so much with the left brain, IQ. Now in recent years, we've moved to EQ, You're taking it to the next level. It's body intelligence, not just the emotions, not just the rational intelligence. It's the body. And there's so much there. So thank you for sharing this. I really hope a lot of people listen to this episode, because this is it. There's one part that really struck me when what you said earlier. You said even artificial intelligence is connected to our body. Can you open that up a bit? Because I think everyone is so hyped up right now about AI, and you've been in this field for 25 years. How do you connect AI with embodiment?
Yeah, that's a brilliant question, Umit. It's a, how can I say, it's an interesting relationship, huh? So, I mean, obviously, we can use tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, whatsoever to learn so much about these things, right? That's one relationship. So it can be our tutor. It's so easy just to go there and look up all this information and even get like plans and all with the right resources and reach out to people and all of that. So it can be a vast source of very valuable information which we can use to basically educate ourselves and practice. So that's one way relationship. The second way I like to look at it is that when AI is taking up so much space, where is the human? How much human is left if there is so much space for AI? And what is missing in AI? AI will never be a human, by the way. From what I know today and from what I can see today, AI will never be a human because AI lacks intuition. AI lacks this body intelligence that comes evolutionary. That's an evolutionary wisdom. Those ages, I mean, our brains, they developed way later. The brains and the minds and everything, they developed way later. If you think about like Stonehenge times, when we were all basically becoming food for tigers or whatever, everything that protected us was the body intelligence. So it's that old. Now the brains and minds, they came later with civilization and all of that. So how AI is growing is it's growing as a product of our mind, right? And data. So it needs to learn from data. Now, in today's technology and from what I can foresee, how are you going to train AI on intuition, on that energy that I can only refer to as energy? Like I can feel it in, like, there are exercises. Okay, I can feel that energy in between my hands, but where is the data for it? How can I make AI learn? So that's one thing that it cannot learn, and that's where all the humanity is. Basically, that's what differentiates us from the algorithms. Algorithms is there basically to make things perfect and over and over and over and automate and faster and more efficient. And that's what humans are basically restricted because we have restricted resources, right? We have only so much energy, we weigh only so much, we can only run that fast, we need to eat, we need to sleep. So all those problems AI doesn't have. But on the other hand, like what you and I are sharing right now on the soul level, how am I going to share it on the soul level with AI? And that's what we should capitalize on, or what I want to capitalize on. That's where the difference is.
Thank you for sharing that, because that was an interesting statement earlier, AI in connection to our body. And it seems like, which is very aligned with, I think, what both of us share that view, which is AI is finally pushing us to tap into the uniqueness that makes us human, such as body intelligence, evolutionary intelligence that comes through our genes, that's in our tissues, like you said earlier, which is not easy to replicate. An interesting, I would say, statement I heard recently when we were talking about AI, and there's a lot of hype about AI coaching. And both of us are in the field of professional coaching leaders around the world. And somebody said that very simply, said, well, there's already one simple difference between an AI coach bot and a human coach. AI doesn't know how to pause, doesn't know how to use silence as a tool, to get the coachee to explore more, to open that space even more. AI doesn't stop. There's continuous response, continuous output, continuous. So thank you, Pınar. Thank you very much. I have to say, I'm like still processing a lot of this. And I also think it's beautiful how you said in the dancing moment that there is that language you create with the other person, and then you create a third language, a third dimension, which is a completely different energy level. I also found that quite inspiring. All right, we could go on forever, clearly. But I want to lead it towards kind of the end now, if that's okay for you. If there was one key message you wanted to share today with the audience listening to this, what would it be?
Yeah, I think one is very clear about our body, but I have one more thing which I heard recently, and I want to connect them both. Like the most important message that I kept saying, actually, I just want to mention it for the closure as well. Make friends, make allies with our body. Really, they are our body is our biggest ally, biggest friend, and our body is talking to us all the time, 24/7. For example, the way it talks to me. Whenever I have like some tension here, I check in. Okay, I have some tension here on my throat. Typically for me, there are things that I wanted to say, but I didn't say. That's an entry point for me. So I start checking in. What needs to be said? What do I want to share with whom? Or we sleep bad, or somehow, I don't know, we have headache. I mean, all these things tell us something, and these are really nudges from our body to put us on our path. So let's please not ignore this and just be friends with our body and learn its language. And it will take us to unimaginable places, to great wisdom, like not only with the mind, and not overemphasize the mind and let it run the game. It makes mistakes, huge mistakes. So yeah, that's what I want to say. Combine both, please, and don't treat your body as a second-class citizen. And the other thing is that, like, when I look back on my life journey now, I want to say this, and it's not my words. I heard it from someone else, but it just gave me goosebumps, like you did in the beginning of our podcast. Dream big, because the reality will always cut it by half. And when I look back, that's really what I did after all, I dreamt big. I was sitting there in Turkey studying English language and literature, and I really didn't know what the future would be, not at all. But I had dreams to go abroad without money, nothing. I just dreamt big. And one way or another, this way or that way, it happened. So, yeah, I think the combination of these two, dream big, and while you are going after those dreams, listen to your body.
Yes. Thank you very much, Pınar. And it feels like the dreaming bit part goes back to what came to me now, is back to feeling it in your tissues where you want to go, and that the rational mind cannot explain that dream always. It's something you feel. So I guess maybe the way we could end this is, thank you for those two big messages, is for everyone that listens to this podcast, actually, if they want to, the moment they finish the podcast, check in with their body. Where do you feel tension? Where do you feel pressure? Or some other kind of sensation? and try and tune into that to see what may be next for you in terms of what serves you. Pınar, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being here. I slowed down because I'm processing a lot of this, and I hope the people listening to this will feel the same way. You've shared very valuable information with us today. You've been very open and vulnerable, so thank you very much.
It's been such a pleasure, Ümit. Your questions unlocked all that. It's about your questions. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you, Pınar.
Much.
Well, for those listening, I hope this is going to be a useful episode in your process as a leader in life or in business, wherever it may be. Thank you for listening, and see you at the next episode. Take care.